Okay, this is long and 35 minutes. And I don't know how much I'll get through this. Uh, there's two people in this picture that haven't really been shown yet. Let's see.
Coming off it?
X, are you okay? This is X, and he's a great guy. Hi.
X is a great guy. Okay. This is Elon Musk and his son, 4-year-old X. You know, this Donald Trump guy. First of all, I want to say that I really don't think that a 4-year-old should be in a national news conference in the Oval Office. I really just want to stare at this picture. It's going to get worse. Let's see. Let's go.
High IQ. He's a high IQ individual.
And he's got this. I got this cool chain he's got.
So thank you very much. We had a busy day today. The king just left, and we've had a great discussion, terrific discussion concerning Gaza and everything else. We had discussions also about Saturday at 12 o'clock. It's going to be a big moment. We'll see what happens. I don't expect much happening with these people, but we'll.
It was. Anyway, this isn't the part that I really wanted to do, but
see what happens. And we're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse.
Billions of dollars.
And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said, we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that.
But he's not going to present a single document in this conference. There may be waste, but show us the documents.
In just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so.
This is the guy is the king of corruption. He was talking about weeding out the corruption. And then you got this other guy over here who shouldn't be running the government because he's got some conflicts of interest here.
Maybe we have to look at the judges because that's a very serious. I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, you say, what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may say.
Restore democracy. First of all, you got an unelected official standing in the Oval Office. Of course, I realize that all of the reporters behind this screen are not elected, which is where Elon Musk should be. Not running the government. He should be back there with the reporters.
Seem like
and this kid here, is he running the government too? I don't know.
We in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, okay, we would have to.
Yeah. See, he's got a lot of mouth.
If you sorry, tell you gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the,
I am looking for a feedback loop to the government. And my feedback would be, I do not want these people in the government, and they're all here. So I don't think my feedback loop is going to work.
The bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have?
Exactly. If you guys in the bureaucracy are in charge, what meaning does my Democrat vote have?
If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives,
they're elected representatives. Elon Musk is not an elected representative, so why is he here?
In the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy.
We live in an oligarchy because you're here.
So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens.
Right. Not the richest man in the world who is here. He keeps talking. It seems like everything he says is the person that we need to get rid of is Elon Musk.
As opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy.
Which you're a part of.
This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people.
I doubt Elon Musk is going to be responsive to me. I am part of the people.
That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at the...
Yeah, that's why we elect people to represent us, instead of having people that we didn't elect show up in the office.
If you asked the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government.
You mean Elon Musk? Are you part of the fourth unelected branch of the government? You certainly do seem to be.
Government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative.
It seems like you're still talking about you with every mouthful. You're unelected.
And this is not something that people want. And it's not. It does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix. And we've also
fire yourself.
Got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is.
I want y'all to pay attention to this right here. What is the national debt? $36.22 trillion. here we are, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Tell me in 4 years on Valentine's Day if the national debt is not 72 trillion. If it is, y'all can send me some chocolate.
Shocking, because we've got we spend a lot of money on defense, but if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to.
Are we spending a lot of money on defense? Or are we spending a lot of money on offense? Pete Hegseth said the other day that we weren't gonna be concerned with the security of Ukraine or Europe, and that Europe was going to have to be the one to take up for Ukraine and itself, because Pete Hegseth wants to concentrate on not going to war with China. Well, I didn't think we were going to war with China, because it seems like everything we buy from China. So this seems to be misplaced. If you can't stick up for Ukraine, which is another democracy, if we keep losing democracies, we're not going to have any, including our own. Unelected officials.
Bankrupt the country. So what I really would say is, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that...
Including not providing any documentation.
Walked away with about $30 million.
Right.
Etc.
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is what happened at USAID.
Or the people who already have $250 billion and are now here unelected in the Oval Office.
We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case...
As I am just curious as to how you got here.
You should take their investment advice, perhaps.
With a 4-year-old, by the way. I keep thinking that Musk is here with his 4-year-old because he's trying to show what a great father he is when he hasn't made up with his trans daughter. And I'm going to continue to be upset with that. Of course, it doesn't affect me at all compared to how it affects Vivian. So y'all just be distracted by X over here. And I wonder if X will change his name when he grows up. I don't know, that'll probably disappoint his father, won't it? We'll see how it goes.
But there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at the taxpayer expense. That's.
Do you think Elon Musk will get wealthy at taxpayer expense? Here, the thing is, Elon Musk's SpaceX has a contract with the government to produce a moon lander, and he's been ferrying some military satellites into orbit. So here he is up at the top, influencing the government. So we'll never know whether he's insidering or not.
That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, say, we just, if you look at, say, Treasury, for example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those.
See, we're sitting here and we have no way to confirm who's on any pay list or do not pay list. So, I mean, it's not like you're standing here with a whiteboard pointing out those that are or are not. You're just running your mouth.
Those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits.
How do I know if it's true?
Is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks.
How do we know there's blank checks?
You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this we're talking about.
I think we should put Elon Musk on a do not pay list. Why does he need to get paid? He's already got $250 billion.
Terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do.
Known fraudsters. What's this here? He's got 34 felony counts for frauding his the value of his estates. And yet this guy talking about fraudsters while standing next to a fraudster. I'm pretty sure that makes him a fraudster.
Do not match any congressional appropriation can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So
there's a helicopter up there.
We're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present.
And I don't mean in here. I mean up there. I think it's gone now.
That haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand.
Wait, what? Complaint minimization. Is that your job?
Motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive...
Oh, send me some money. I won't complain. Send me some money. I'll probably still complain.
...receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So...
How loud are you, Elon?
Then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything just... They approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner.
This is just a long ramble that's just driving me nuts.
Then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian.
Common sense? I never have liked this phrase, common sense. What senses do I have in common with these guys? do they even know what that word common means?
Or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old.
Do we? Can you point to some of them so we can see it?
Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't know. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. That's the case.
It's funny that you're standing up there making a joke about it, but you're not showing it. When you came in here, you should have a big flip chart or a whiteboard or something so you can show us what the hell you're talking about instead of just running your mouth.
We're like, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it.
I have a feeling it's going to get harder.
They receive it quickly and accurately. I'll tell you another crazy thing. So, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there needs to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying,
I don't know if that's true or not, because when there's nobody up there in these offices, then you can't get services. And I just hate that. They're like bankers. Open 9 to 5 and closed on Wednesday or Monday. Got problems every day of the week. If they're off on Monday or Wednesday, nothing we can do about it.
Well, let's, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well.
This right here coming up is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. This has to be some made up shit.
Why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece.
Is it really? In 2025, the shit's not in a computer? I mean, it'd be amazing if it's not in a computer. Wait, just listen to this next bit.
Piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And like, what do you mean a mine?
It goes down a mine. Yeah, what in the hell do you mean a mine?
Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards.
Why didn't you bring the so-called pictures with you?
And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move.
So what you're saying is it's got a single mine shaft with a single elevator with these manually made up papers going up and down this mine shaft, is what you're saying.
Determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down and then sometimes, and then
the elevator breaks down? I sure hope this is a fabulous analogy, because this is really stressing my patience.
Nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people.
Yes, it does sound crazy, Elon.
That work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And
I just can't believe there's no computers involved in that whole process. I just really can't believe it. Do you know why I can't believe it? It seems preposterous.
You would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So, anyway, I think that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles, and so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet, by the way. So,
the room's real quiet, he says. I guess everybody's astonished with your mine shaft explanation of how the government works.
People normally was quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
What?
Including a lot
What? He has detractors?
of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
He knows he's got detractors. That's why he's joking about it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your
I'm not sure how non-transparent it is. He's standing right here.
response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate.
That's not the word. Okay.
From the public. The public voted.
Actually, it could be a stronger mandate. If 80% of the people voted and voted for Donald Trump, that would be a stronger mandate. What you've got here is 51 and 49% break. There's us 49% down at the bottom, whose feedback loop will not end in these people listening to us. So yes, the mandate could be a ton bigger.
We could have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We've won the House, we won the Senate. The people voted.
You forgot to mention the court that should be neutral. It seems to be full of right-wing folks right now. And when I say that, that would sort of imply that the few who are not right-wing are left-wing. But they should be no wing. There should be no wing judges in the Supreme Court. They shouldn't be left-wing or right-wing.
Major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, people...
There's going to be reform, but it's not going to be the reform we want.
They don't get what they voted for. But in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for.
No, we're not. You just wait. Even the people who voted for President Trump are going to find out that they don't get what they voted for.
And that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have.
Here's the part. The conflict of interest.
Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case that where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization.
I really don't know how transparent the Doge organization is, but I'll tell you one organization that's no longer transparent, and that's USAID, because their page is gone. USAID.gov looks like this. That's the maximum untransparency. Of course, I have heard that the whole thing doesn't exist anymore.
You know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic.
I mean, there should at least be a page here that says this page intentionally left blank, right? I mean, that's the way blank pages usually work in the government. There's at least a notice. There's not even any notice here. I have a feeling the whole rest of the government's going to end up being like that.
They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, you know.
The thing that's not coming out here is that these actions that are going to be taking will benefit him. It's not going to say on the page, this payment benefits Elon Musk. Just wait for NASA programs to be canceled that don't involve Elon Musk. Just wait for Space Launch System to be canceled. Just wait for the Boeing capsule. Just wait for that to be canceled.
There's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately, you know?
Including you yourself.
Yeah.
I'm saying it now. You're here influencing the government. Don't tell me that you're here influencing the government is not benefiting you. Exceedingly.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody.
How about not being in the office running shit? You either should be the head of SpaceX and Tesla and all those other companies you've got, or you should be in here running something to do with the government. Not both.
Somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on.
It's not, the thing is though, it's not just transparency. You can't be here in the government running the government while you're receiving benefits from the government.
And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally.
You're standing here is benefiting your company. You can't convince me that you're standing here is not benefiting your company. You may as well have Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg standing right here beside you saying the same damn thing. Y'all could be triplets.
Totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look at.
Oh, yes, you would, because you're the master of doing it.
In that area, if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict.
If you don't believe us, ask us. We'll tell you.
Of interest, and we watch that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that
do we want an unsuccessful guy sitting in the presidential chair? Because if we compare you, single-digit billionaire, to Elon Musk, who's a 3-digit billionaire, then there's a mismatch of successful going on here.
Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse.
Show me. Where's your documents? You didn't come to this press conference with any documents. You can't point to them. You're not going to talk about them.
I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist.
And again, you're not presenting any documents to show what you found.
Judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And
you're doing things in a way that no other president has done things. It's like the mafia.
It is very corrupt. It's very, very...
Yeah, you're very corrupt. You're just like the mafia.
It's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You got a lot of that. You have a contract.
You got a guy with a contract. Got a guy with a contract standing right here, who's also standing there influencing the contract makers.
Contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. Yeah. But if you have a contract,
the thing is so big, the government is so big. That's our excuse. The government is so big, we can't manage it.
You're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. It's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, you know? They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse.
Much worse, like the guy standing here with the contracts who's influencing the contract makers.
I guess you call that incompetence, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be corruption. It could be deals made on both sides.
Could be incompetence sitting right here.
You know, where the guy gets some money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts.
Yes.
So he has to get a kickback.
Really?
So that's what I got elected for, that and borders.
Did you get elected for kickbacks?
And military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected.
I hope the court system will one day not be twisted hardcore to the right instead of the neutral court that it should be.
To among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find.
You just wait. The national debt, I promise you, it'll be $72 trillion by the end of this 4 years.
That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings, and he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York
Show us what it is.
where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants.
Here you are with the migrants again. How do we confirm that?
Illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Yeah.
Mr. Musk, can I ask a question? You
Well,
said
if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, you say, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add
Caring about who? Do you care about your trans daughter?
competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I
He's just full of it and the jokes, right?
can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%.
It's all like building the Riviera of the Middle East.
Maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth,
Oh, here's the nose picking.
and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation at 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's, the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine
Shouldn't have 4-year-olds in the press conference room. I'm sorry.
they're going down the grocery aisle, and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and they're.
Here is Elon Musk's and child telling Donald Trump to shush your mouth. Somebody said that X has stolen the show. if the show is a farcical play, then I suppose X is the star of the show.
Their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that for the average American?
We had
That's
no
what we're
idea.
at.
We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open.
I had no idea that X was going to find that much up in here.
And it's not like complicated. It's
not
simple stuff.
complicated.
It's
Just
like
a lot of work.
We
Yeah.
can't believe it. A lot of work, a lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're
It is really
talking
crazy.
about. You know, normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. You know, the public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that Doge cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know if Doge cuts will need a vote in Congress. Maybe y'all have heard that Congress holds the purse strings. How much longer is that going to last? Are we already here? He doesn't know.
Tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll.
See, he's misdirected. The question was whether these budget cuts would need a vote. The cuts made by Doge would need a vote in Congress for the cuts to be approved. Now, President Trump has misdirected you by saying that if he needs a vote of Congress to look, then he doesn't know. Sure, maybe you don't need a vote to look, but you do need a vote to pass these cuts. And if you don't know that, I guess you don't know how government works. If you don't know how government works, how can you be here?
Get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even...
The one thing that I've noticed that a judge has put a restraining order on was firing all of these federal workers. And then, I don't know, maybe that got turned over again? Why would a judge want to stop everybody in the government from getting fired? Well, if you fire everybody in the government, you can't get services.
Even Congress want to do that. Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply
Well, I
with that
always
order?
abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal.
He always abides by the courts. After you've set up your court, eh? What about the federal courts that you're, like I said, you're appealing? Yeah, then as soon as he gets to the Supreme Court, they'll just say, yep, you can do that.
It. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books.
Here is the crooked people right here. Crooked number one and crooked number two.
You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that and all of.
No. The crooked has already been caught. And he's not getting punished. You are sitting right here in the office. You've already been convicted of 34 felony counts. And you see how well that works. And you're not even the richest. You're way down at the bottom of the rich folks. Compared to the guy who's standing over there.
All of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope.
Yeah, appeals take a long time. And he could just stretch the appeals out for the next 4 years.
That a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States.
Well, we did have some, this thing called U.S. aid that was providing aid to people in the world that are not Americans. And we would like to live in a world that's not completely messed up. So we tend to want to aid some people in the world, which we can't do anymore because U.S. aid has been killed.
And taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that.
We should stop all the aid to all the countries. Sure, just let Russia and China run all the countries. And I suppose Israel can run some of the other ones. I'd like to say that I fully support the Israeli people, but I'm not so sure about the Israeli government.
and this is big numbers. Talking about $100 to $200 billion a year. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact-check this, apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas, actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And how can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
How indeed can we make sure that what he says is correct?
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes.
Really? Let's see how correct this one is.
I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly.
$50 million worth of condoms. I wonder if anything else is included in that $50 million. How many condoms would 50 million be?
I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. But you know, if it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still.
No. See, there's a Gaza in Mozambique. It's what the reporter is talking about. He's not making the distinction between the Gaza in Israel or the Gaza in Mozambique.
Well, you know, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work.
Well, you've got one agency head of the Department of Education who is apparently working towards demolishing the Department of Education. So,
closely with the agency heads, yeah. So there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy nilly. It's in.
The checks in place. We're going to fire all the government employees and bring in the ones loyal to the Republican Party. And then, of course, the checks that will happen will be that, oh, yeah, we agree with the Republican Party agenda, Project 2025, and this fits firmly within Project 2025. So, yep, check.
Partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that, you know, this is what the president wants to have happen.
Here's the 4-year-old again saying you need to shut your mouth. I assume you're still talking to the president. This is the most disrespectful shit. I don't know. Maybe it's appropriate for this government.
So, you know, we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, you want us to do this? We'll do it.
USA.
Oh, of course he's gonna. We're buddy. Of course he's gonna say, "Oh yeah, go ahead."
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all
USA.
that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention.
Left that, you said?
Yes, correct. And
I wonder if you think some of these things were happening under USA ID. I mean, you just kill the whole thing and then say that you're doing it some other way. I don't know.
we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So,
do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say what is the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good.
Again, we don't have any documents to show that, do we? You're just standing here, rah, 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 with your buddy up there beating on your head.
And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that
Really? Influencing elections? That's a big claim. Be nice if we had some documents to show where that was happening, wouldn't it?
I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I can just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is
Yes.
that
This right here, you're receiving billions of dollars from the Pentagon for launching Pentagon satellites. Do you think it's a conflict of interest that you're here influencing the Pentagon?
We definitely need to do and
interest?
are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contracts.
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract. Well, they're certainly not going to be shown here, are they? There's no contract that you're a part of that will be influenced by your actions standing here in the Oval Office. I find that difficult to believe.
Contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract.
Sure, you're not the one filing the contract. Except tomorrow, you'll be on the phone talking to the person who is filing the contracts. Have you ever heard of this situation where the one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing? This seems to be purposeful dodge. Excuse me with the confusion with the Doge and the Dodge.
Contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
The president said the other.
What about the future? If you kill every other competitor, then they'll have no chance to beat your price.
Other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills. Or
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead.
well, as I mentioned earlier, really the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but
You thought your son might enjoy this. Maybe 10 minutes of it. We're 26 minutes in, and he's just a distraction. How do you take this guy seriously? Who is supposed to be the adult in the room when the adults are managing the children and the adult business is just a side show?
he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. It's a bit hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. The stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example,
I'm considering ending it right now. There's 9 minutes left.
like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. and you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization.
You might have a legitimate organization that sweeps some things under the rug. I'm not so sure that everything that's going to be happening with SpaceX, now that Elon Musk is up here in the Oval Office influencing things, is going to be legitimate. This is kind of like saying that New York City is real, so therefore Spider-Man is real. I mean, SpaceX is legitimate. See how much longer Boeing lasts.
If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list, we should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment list.
Does he think that everything is going to have to be on a do not pay list? What if 20 things that SpaceX does should be paid for, but one stupid thing happens that shouldn't be paid for? Would we put the whole company on the do not pay list, or can we just not pay this one item? There's quite a few details left out here.
The do not pay list. It means that this is someone that is like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters.
Known fraudsters. Known fraudsters sitting behind desks in Oval offices. How do you track down all of the other fraudsters when you've got one big one at the top?
That kind of thing, we should not pay them. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. We have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing.
You're referring to himself in the third person, the person in charge? This whole press conference is just
Namely, make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But
how can everything be honest and legitimate if you're here?
Looking at just when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But
the thing is, he didn't just trim the flack out of USAID. It's gone. It looks like this now. You're not telling me that the military is going to look like that. If anybody thought for a second that you're going to white out the military, nobody would believe that. But here's the USA ID now. Nobody thought that Roe would fall. It's gone.
The USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge.
How do we know? How do we even know? You can sit here and say that they're corrupt while you're corrupt. I can't take it seriously.
And saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying.
I bought some eggs the other day. It was $9 for 18. I don't even know why I even put that in there.
And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetent.
I'm just waiting for the VA healthcare system to be gutted. That's how I get my medication, y'all. Just, we'll see how long that lasts.
Competence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it.
No, they didn't say you weren't allowed to look for it. They said you weren't allowed to change it without congressional approval. At least that was the impression I got.
That's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
Sir, program, can you personally guarantee that
Which one?
The buyout program, the operative federal workers, can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through September?
They'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space.
I still think what's going to happen is these people who are retiring, and let's hope that they do get their money, will have received less money in the end than they would have if they kept working towards their retirement. So the money that you're going to say that you're saving is the money that you should have paid these people long term in their retirement that they won't get. And then you can hire the new people at a lower rate who haven't earned any pensions yet. That's all I can imagine. Otherwise, how in the hell can this possibly be saving anything? Because you're still going to have to provide some services, right? Or maybe I'm disillusioned and there's not going to be any services.
It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this
is very misleading. because what's being talked about here primarily are the work from home force that started during the pandemic. Guess what, y'all? We found out that if you're working in front of a computer and a telephone, you can do that from anywhere. And we have tools to figure out whether or not the people who are working from home are productive or not. So when he says they don't have to work for 5 years, that's not the same as working from home for 5 years. It's kind of like Elon Musk's child should be at home with somebody who works from home. But no, he's here trying to distract you.
This is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault.
Oh my God, Biden's not even here. It's always the previous administration's fault, right? Well, to me, it's the people who are standing here right now.
He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he...
This country was built on immigration. We should be finding more ways for people to be legal immigrants instead of arresting millions of people who are here to work and consume and expand the economy of the United States. Do you think that millions of immigrants are just sitting at home waiting for the lucrative checks to come in?
He did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it, but many contracts just extend and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't.
It's just a giant misdirection. This is just a whole this whole press conference is just a giant space filler. It doesn't mean anything.
You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Blah, 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 blah. I've always been annoyed at how in press conferences among adults, there's a bunch of yelling at the end, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President.
The White House tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to them.
Did you guys get anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually. I hope that's the...
They're treated very nice by Russia. What about Ukraine? You think Ukraine will be able to well, my understanding is that Trump's idea of peace will be for Russia to keep everything that it's currently occupying. Including Crimea. And I have a feeling that the Ukrainian troops have crossed over into the Russia territory will be forced to leave. By what method, I don't know. If the war is supposed to stop, I bet you none of that happens.
The beginning of a relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop being killed. They've lost millions of people. They lost.
All that would have to happen for the war to end would be for Putin's forces to leave Ukraine. Because y'all don't forget for a second that Ukraine was a sovereign entity, a sovereign nation for 30 years. And then Russia invaded Ukraine. Don't ever forget that. If you forget now that Russia invaded Ukraine, it's all over. If you think it's unreasonable for Ukraine to retain its pre-war property, territory, it's ridiculous for Russia to have invaded Ukraine. See, you long forgot that Crimea was taken by Russia. When it was not part of Russia. Now it's just a given that Crimea is Russian territory. It would be ridiculous to expect Crimea to go back to being controlled by Ukraine. And by extension, all of the other parts of Ukraine that have been invaded by Russia. You just forget about it, right? And then we'll have peace.
In terms of soldiers, probably 1.5 million soldiers in a short period of time. We got to stop that war. And I'm interested primarily from the standpoint of death. We're losing all those soldiers. And they're not American soldiers, they're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. But you're probably talking about 1.5 million. I think we got to bring that one to an end. Okay?
Aaron Gilchrist is live for us at the White House. Aaron, what was so interesting to watch in this dynamic was President Trump, it seemed very comfortably turning over the spotlight to Elon Musk in the Oval Office, in the center of power in Washington.
I wonder if they'll mention anything about Elon Musk's 4-year-old child. That's another 3 minutes and 52 seconds. I don't even care what these folks say. I'm done with it. It's tiring, folks. Love you, bye.